Trump and Biden take corporate money. They're both bought and paid for. Trump, yeah, he might have been self-funded during the 2016 primaries, but right after the primaries, when he went up against Hillary, he started taking PAC money, and he takes PAC money right now as well. So both of these fucks are bought and paid for, because they're both aristocrats. Trump was born into being an aristocrat. You know, he started his business using daddy's money. Biden just sucked his dick away to being an aristocrat. He just did the bidding of corporate interests while he was in office to gain wealth for himself. So both of them are in the bed with moneyed interest. Russia, there's a lot of fucking talk on Russia. I don't think people really give a fuck about Russia right now. I think that's MSNBC fucking viewer bullshit, and I think Trump trying to hit Biden on whatever kind of corruption with China or Russia may be effective for his base, just like Biden doing that may hit his base a little bit, but it's not going to really do much right now. Now, you could make the argument that most people have decided, so maybe this debate should just be all about turning out the base. You can make an argument there, but I think for most people, they care about COVID, so focusing on shit like Russia, I think overall is a bad move. Trump trying to hit Biden on corruption, again, I don't think it really does much for him. You know, Biden is strong on the tax returns, and what I mean when I say he's strong on hitting Trump on the tax return and hitting him on corruption, I don't mean that that's what you should be talking about. Just his delivery was good, so it's like, oh, okay, maybe this guy isn't as senile as we thought. He looked at Trump, he was direct, he seemed strong, his delivery was good, but again, what he was actually talking about, I don't think anyone really gives a fuck. Biden was also, he was strong on hitting Trump at gaming the system with the tax returns. And I think Trump was fucking pretty weak on this. Because Trump has said in the past that, oh, you know, you're a smart businessman, we gamed the system. But then he was saying, oh, I prepaid taxes. And if you really fucking think about it, prepaying taxes as a businessman would be pretty fucking stupid because of the time value of money. That money, instead of being paid, because again, the tax returns were for multiple years, so he would have had to prepay taxes multiple years in advance. Doing that would mean that money is not getting invested, that's not getting compound interest, that's not in the market. So that would actually be a stupid ass business decision. So he has to choose, is he either the savvy businessman who's gaming the system, or is he this not so savvy businessman, but I guess you could say cares and patriotic about his country, who is paying taxes in advance? I think it's pretty obvious which one that is. Let's see what else we got. Trump on Russia. I don't even know if I want to go over this that much more, but just one quick thing. I think, yeah, when he says no president should have had to go through that, what I went through, when he was talking about the Russia gate shit, and he was talking about how it was such an inconvenience to him. I don't think right now, in the middle of a fucking pandemic and in the middle of possibly a depression, at least for the working class people of this country, I mean, yeah, sure, the top line numbers will look good, but for the working class of this country, we're in a depression. So talking about that, basically joining the victim Olympics and talking about yourself as a billionaire president being a victim in the middle of a pandemic and an economic depression for working class Americans just seems out of touch. It shows that you're a fucking aristocrat, and it shows that you're not taking the real issues to working class Americans seriously. Okay. Talking like this, you know, and then saying, oh, maybe Biden, you know, well, he did this, so I don't know if he did this. No, that doesn't convey strength. You look like a gossip or something, like Trump's gossiping, saying, oh, well, maybe, you know, he did this, and, you know, I've heard that. No, that doesn't project strength. You look like a fucking partisan gossip, and no one gives a fuck about that right now. Again, in the middle of a pandemic and a depression for working class Americans. I think Trump calling Biden and his brothers vacuum cleaners, I think that was hilarious. And I think Trump on China, addressing the concerns of his business account in China, I actually think that was pretty effective. He went into the details, and he showed how, well, he talked about that account was closed before he was president. So therefore, you could say, okay, he didn't have a conflict of interest. Now, talking about how Trump was hitting Biden on corruption, and Trump said, that line, it was like how Biden was doing very well for himself, he looked very wealthy. That on its face may seem pretty fucking ridiculous and ironic and hypocritical, whatever, coming from a billionaire who is now president. But this I actually think he's right on, because a public servant should not be getting rich while they're in office. The only way that really happens is very much, most likely, through corruption. Yeah, you could have outside book deals, you could have things like that, and that's fine. But that's not what Trump's talking about. He's talking about how Biden, as his many years of public servant, became wealthy when before he was not. So that's legit. There is a real difference there between, yes, Trump, he was a businessman, so yeah, that's different to be a billionaire. That's, expected for, someone who was given a $1 million loan by daddy and then was probably a pretty decent businessman, so he made a living for himself. Biden, profiting off of his position as a public servant, is an entirely different thing.